Pleased to meet you again, and let's continue with the course. In this video, we are going to discuss one of the most commonly used trigger, and that is webhook. So with the help of webhooks, you can integrate your workflow with the external applications, because in so many scenarios or in the production grade applications, you will probably need to integrate your workflows with the external apps, and the most convenient way for the integration is to use webhooks. So just open the Docker desktop and start the n8n image, create a new workflow, and I'm going to name this workflow to n8n webhooks. Now, up till now, we have seen how you can use the manual triggers and how you can use the chat node. But now, our first trigger in this case is going to be a webhook. So we are going to trigger or start our workflow from an external application. And in this video, we are going to use Thunder Client. It's a VS Code extension, and it is just like Postman. So if you are familiar with Postman, Thunder Client is something like that. But if you don't know what is Thunder Client or what is Postman, then don't worry. We are going to talk about it in this video, but later on. So first, let's create a simple workflow. Just search for the webhook and click on this webhook. And just like the previous HTTP tutorial, we need to define here the type of method for this webhook. So if someone sends a GET request to this workflow, then this particular webhook will be triggered. And if someone sends a POST request, let's put another webhook and set its type to POST. So in case of POST request, this webhook is going to be triggered, and this is the URL. So all you need to do is to send a POST request on this URL to trigger this webhook. For now, let's remove this POST URL and let's stick with this simple get webhook. So if you double click on this get webhook, you are going to see nothing on the left side because it's our first node. And then in the center, in the parameters section, you are going to see two different URLs, the test URL and the production URL. So the only difference between the test URL and the production URL is this test word. So in the test URL, you have this dash test keyword, and in the production URL, you don't have that dash test keyword. So this is the only difference. And second, we have these different HTTP methods. So I hope you have watched the previous video and now you know about these HTTP methods. So the default HTTP method is going to be get, but we have the delete, head, patch, post, and put. And in this video, we are going to discuss the delete, post, and put request, because these are three most commonly used HTTP methods. So get, and then this is the path. You can think of it like a unique identifier. You can see that this URL will be same for our webhooks, but only this path is going to be different. So this path is same as this one, so it's just a unique identifier. Then we are not going to have any kind of authentication in this case, but obviously in the production grade applications, you need to set up the authentication so that only the authorized application can send requests to your webhook. So you need to block all other applications from sending any kind of request to your workflow webhooks. Secondly, we have an important thing, and that is this response. How you are going to send response. By default, this is going to set to immediately. We can obviously change it. So we are going to use this respond to webhook node. So this is a special kind of node which will be triggered whenever our workflow gets completed, and usually you are going to put this respond to webhook node at the end of the workflow. So we are going to set it to respond to webhook, and now we need to insert this respond to webhook node. So just go back to the canvas and click on this plus sign, search for respond to webhook. Inside this respond to webhook, you have a couple of options. For example, you can respond with the first incoming item, and then we have all different methods inside this respond with parameter. You can send all items in the response. You can send binary file like an image or video or something like that. Then you can also send a custom JSON response or a JWT token. So for example, you are using this webhook for authorization or for authentication, then obviously you need to send a JWT token in the response. Then you can also send no data. You can redirect the request to maybe another URL, or you can send a simple plain text response. So for now, let's stick with this one, a simple plain text response. And whenever user trigger this webhook, I'm going to send something like webhook has been triggered and complete it. So this will be the response. Just go back to the canvas, and now it's time to test it. Since we are in test environment, click on this test workflow. Now this webhook is waiting for the call. So just double click on this webhook and copy this URL. It is same as this one. So if you have already copied the URL from there, you don't need to copy it from here. Now all you need to do is to open the Visual Studio Code, click on this extension icon and search for Thunder Client. This is the Thunder Client. Make sure to install this one, not this Thunder HTTP client. And after installing this Thunder Client, quit the VS Code and reopen it. After reopening the Visual Studio Code, you are going to probably see this kind of icon, the Thunder Client icon, and you can directly create here this new request. So just click on this new request, and there you need to define the URL which you have just copied, and the type is going to be get, because in the n8n we have set the type to get. And make sure the n8n is running. So click on this test workflow, and now click on this send request, and here we go. We got the response. Webhook has been triggered and completed. So this is the response which we have manually set in the respond to webhook node. For the sake of simplicity, I'm using this Thunder client. Obviously, in the real world scenario, you're going to get this URL and will put it in your maybe front end application in something like React or in Node or maybe even in Python. And then through those applications, you can communicate or you can trigger the workflows and get the data from the workflows. So a workflow can be as simple as this one, sending simple line in the response, or it can be something more complex like providing a whole PDF and then asking the AI to generate the summary or to identify some keywords or something like that, and then send that data in the response. Or even it can be something like a calling agent, where the agent is going to call your webhook, and the webhook is going to maybe fetch the data from a vector database and will send it in real time to the calling agent. So there can be multiple scenarios where you can utilize your webhooks, but we are going to keep things simple so that everyone can follow it. Right in front of this activity, we have collections, and I'm going to create a separate collection for this video so that I can put all of my requests in that collection. Just click on these three lines and click here, new collection, and I'm going to name it. And inside this n8n webhook, let's first create new request, and the name is going to be testing that webhook. And now just paste the URL and send a request. Oops, we got 404 because our workflow is not running. So just click here, test workflow, and send again. and we got the response. Now let's make things bit more complex, and instead of just using this get request, I'm going to use the post request, and in post request I'll ask the user to provide the name and email, and then I'll save the name and email in the Airtable. And when user send a get request, I'm going to fetch all the data from my Airtable and will return to the user. Search for another webhook, and this is going to be the post, and the respond is going to be using respond to webhook node. Go back to canvas, rename it to post data, search for the Airtable. And now I hope you know what is Airtable, because in the previous video we have discussed it. I'm going to use this action, create a record. And if you have followed again the previous video, you will have your credentials like this. Otherwise, just go back to my previous video, watch it in order to set up the Airtable credentials. So I'm going to select this account, and the resource is going to be record, the operation is going to be create, and then choose the base. So my base is going to be this n8n base, and inside this base I have two tables. I'm going to choose table 2. Probably you are going to see only single table. If yes, all you need to do is to go to your Airtable account and select the base. So we have selected this n8n underscore base, and just click on this drop down icon and click here add table and start from scratch. So just save it, and now I'm going to see 3 tables. So if I go back to canvas, open the Airtable again and click on this drop down, I have now 3 tables. So just click on this table 2, and inside this table 2 currently I have name, notes, assignee. These are all my column names. So let's change them to simple name and email. So delete all of these fields, and also delete these records. Along with name, I need to have email as well. So this is going to be email, and the field name is going to be email as well. So if you go back to n8n, let's refresh it, and now we got name and email only. Without making any other change, put here the respond to webhook node, and I'm going to say you will have a lot of questions in the mind, and one of them will be okay, we have set up the Airtable, but we are not providing any kind of data, and the reason is that currently we don't know about the data format. For this purpose, we need to test this webhook for the first time in order to get the data format. So that's why all I need to do is to test it. So just copy this URL, go back to canvas, test workflow, open the Thunder client, create a new request, paste the URL, and this time the request type is going to be post, and inside this body I'm going to provide my data. So I'm going to say the email is going to be maybe mail@mail.com, and the name is going to be Umer. And let's click on this send. So we got this workflow executed. This means everything is fine. Go back to n8n, click on this Airtable now. As you can see, under the input section, now we have a lot of information. So we have the headers. For example, in case of authentication, you are probably going to pass your tokens or username or password under this header, so you can fetch that information from the header. But since we have passed our data under the body section, that's why they are going to appear under the body section. So this is the body, we have the email, which is the key we have set, and this is the actual data. So again, name, and this is the actual name. So we are going to use these two properties for creating the record in the Airtable. So all you need to do is to drag the name and drop it under the name section, and drop the email under the email part. Back to the canvas, and let me show you the Airtable. Currently it's empty, so let's test it. Test the workflow. Again, send the request. We got status 200, everything is fine. Go to your table and we got our first record. Test this workflow again. Send the request again. Open the Airtable and we got our new data. So this means our post request is working fine. Now create a get request, which is going to fetch all the data from the Airtable and will send it to our Thunder client. So just search for webhook, and this is going to be get. The response is going to be respond to webhook node. Back to canvas, fetch data, search for Airtable node, and this time instead of creating the record, I'm going to say get or maybe search a record. So in case of get a record, you are going to specify the record ID which you need to get, but in case of search record, it is going to return all the records from the Airtable. So we are interested in this action. So search records, and again specify your credentials. So this is going to be my credential. The base is going to be n8n base, and the table is going to be table 2. And now if you want to apply any kind of transformation on your data, you can do so, but I'll keep everything as it is. Maybe let's test the step. So we got our data. So obviously the first record is going to be empty because if you open your Airtable, you can see in the first row we have nothing. That's why it is blank, and I think it's going to be a very good exercise to use the delete request in order to delete this empty row. So let's do this later. For now, let's stick with this get. So we are fetching the data from the Airtable. All we need to do is to just attach a response to webhook, and instead of sending this first incoming item, I'm going to send all incoming items. That's great. Open this webhook, copy this URL, and test workflow. Open Thunder client, create a new request, fetch records, and paste the URL. The method is going to be get. Save it and send. Here we go. We got our response. So again, the first row is empty. That's why we have no email, no name. But then in the second item, we got the email, the name, and similarly in the third item, we got the email and name. Let's test the put request. I'm going to update the username based on its email. Create a new workflow. And this time the method is going to be put because it's a recommended method for updating the data, and the response is going to be respond to webhook node. Rename it. Now again we need to link the Airtable. So search for Airtable, and this time I'm going to say update the record. Again, this is going to be my credential from, and the table is going to be 2. And now by default it will be set to the ID, but instead of matching the ID, I'm going to match the user email. Select this email column, and I'm going to provide my updated username. So again, I'm going to ask user to provide the updated name. So I'll send that updated name in the body. All I need to do is to click on this expression and define that expression. So JSON dot body dot email. Oh, no, email. It will be name. And as you can see, the email column isn't going to be updated because we are using it as a primary key, at least in this case. Go back to canvas and create a new response to webhook. And again, I'm going to send a plain text. Back to canvas, and I think it's time to test it. So just copy this URL, test workflow, go to Thunder client, update record. The method type is going to be put. This is the URL, and under the body I'm going to provide my name. So now the key should match the key which we have defined in the n8n. So it is name, and the updated name is going to be Ali, and we also need to provide the email. Copy this email, paste it right here. And one thing that we need to do is to go back to the workflows. Stop the workflow. We need to make a change. So we also need to define here the email, because this is the field which the Airtable is going to use for updating the name. JSON.body.email. Send the request. And we got the record updated successfully. Open the Airtable. The name has been changed from Umar to Ali. Again, you need to make sure that this key, which is email, and this name should match this key and this key. Now finally, let's create another webhook for deleting the record. So we are going to delete our empty row, and this time it is going to be delete, rename it to, and click here again and search for Airtable. And this time I'm going to delete a record. Again, and now we need to define here the record ID. So we are going to pass the record ID in the body. So just switch to expression and define the expression. So JSON.body.id. So ID is going to be my key. So based on ID, I'm going to delete the record. Respond to webhook. And again, maybe this time let's send a JSON body. So I'll say my response is going to be the key, and the value is going to be, back to the canvas. Again, open this webhook, copy the URL and test the workflow. Open Thunder client, delete record, paste the URL, method type is going to be delete, and in the body we need to provide our ID of the record. So what is going to be the ID? Just go back to where we are fetching the records. This is the ID which we need to define. So just copy this record ID and paste it right here. Finally, let's test it. Yes, we got the response. Record has been deleted. So if I go back to Airtable, now we don't have any empty row. Click on this test workflow again and go back to fetch records and fetch my updated records. I'm going to have only 2 items. Yes, we have just 2 items. So this means everything is fine, and I hope you have understood how you can create your own webhooks. Now, in case of production, all you need to do is to click on this radio button, activate workflow, and as you can see, we got this message. Now, our workflow is going to be executed in the production grid, and the test URL aren't going to work. So click here, got it. And now if I try to fetch the record using my test URL, this isn't going to work. So all I need to do is to remove this dash test, save it again, and send the request. And now we got our record. So when you activate the workflow, you don't need to manually click on that test workflow for sending the request. So I can send as many requests to my workflow as I want. So I hope you have understood this video and enjoyed it as well. And in the next one, we are going to learn something new, and I'll see you there. Bye bye.